Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Thank you so much for hanging out and waiting for the broadcast. As usual, we're late. That's what happens. And this time, it wasn't just Joe's fault. It was the fault of my phone system because it essentially just crapped out. Let's see. It should be working now. Okay, guys, you can call in. Let me know. If you're in the chat, let us know if the phones work. 888-659-3727. It just, it doesn't matter what it is. When you're doing this yourself and you're outside of the radio studio confines and you are running and producing a program completely on your own with a lot of technical shit. I'm not just putting up a camera, plugging in a mic, and doing a podcast. Shit just breaks, man. It just doesn't work. That's why I always say, and we're talking about hair transplant surgery all the time because that's really the main concern of, in my view, of the cesspool of this field. Even though, yeah, in most cases you're going to be ripped off if you buy some bullshit on the internet now. In most cases, if you see anything in a hair salon or whatever it is for hair loss, it's not going to help you. But at least it's only money. When it comes to surgical hair restoration, people are being disfigured every single day. So, when I say that when I go live and I don't know what the fuck is going to happen and that, it could be a surprise at any given time, any day with any piece of equipment that it's just in order for this to run properly, it has to be a perfectly honed, beautiful symphony of things going right. And that is exactly what a hair transplant is, except you're dealing with, you like that, Joe?
I did. I like the lead into that.
You are dealing with a human being. I can't even imagine the surprises that a real surgeon or surgical team sees on a daily basis. Every case is different. And the fact that it is sold as this commodity, one-size-fits-all procedure is insane. And I understand that is the way in which an industry can evolve and develop. But the fact that this is an industry and that it is commoditized, and it has been since its inception, is not only repugnant, but it cheapens this incredible discipline of cosmetic surgery and really puts consumers in a dangerous position. Guys, we are live. We're doing the show for you on a Friday. So last few weeks, all lines were lit throughout the entire broadcast. Right now, not a single line lit. So I don't know if it's because the phones were broken. If someone can at least try to call in so I can see something light up to make sure that it's working. I mean, we are getting a dial tone, so it should be fine. But it's possible because I had a reboot that there's some setting that is not set correctly and no one's getting through. Or no one gives a shit and they're not calling and we're going to go home. But either way, we're here to provide you with anything and everything when it comes to hair loss as far as there's the lights. Great. Thank you, guys. Just the reality of this industry, the reality of living life as a hair loss sufferer, and the reality of what you are going to see when you research hair loss or hair transplant surgery on the internet or elsewhere. Now, really, where else are you going to go? Most people are going to go online now to do their research, unless they go to, speak to their hair salon or the hairstylist, who they don't know shit either.
They're going to look them up in the yellow pages.
Yeah,
like I did.
yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah,
that's what I fucking did. Big. When it was called the yellow pages before they called it the yellow book, and when it actually weighed a lot, you can knock someone's ass out with that thing.
yeah. It was a big deal. Like, it was such a big deal that they would have carny performers on TV showing how they can
rip it apart,
rip one in half with their bare hands, which was a big deal.
And then as the internet became something and grew, we saw that book shrink and then become
do they
smaller.
even print it out still? Have they stopped printing it?
I don't know if they stopped printing it, but you know what? I was getting into my home, but a small version, a local version, for years, up until about 2 or 3 years ago. I think they may have stopped. What the fuck is the point?
Exactly.
It's
such a massive waste of paper.
You know what's funny is, like, I understand, and guys, we'll take your calls in a second. This is the Hair Loss Show. Like, there's this whole movement of, and I understand the whole vinyl movement, and it's just something cool about having a turntable and listening to music on vinyl. But the truth of the matter is, it is archaic technology. And the reality is that you can have a cool, crisp digital sound, and that is easy to carry in your pocket, thousands and thousands of songs and albums.
Mm-hmm.
What the
With
fuck
album art?
What? Yeah. What the fuck is the point? We have to evolve, and it's just like, I'm going to bring it back to this field. This field is claiming to evolve, but it's actually devolving. And it's devolving because physicians who have no fucking clue of what they're doing are getting into the industry because there are turnkey devices available, and because the old guard turned this into a commodity. They don't want to blame themselves, but it's their fucking fault. These product manufacturers would have to sell their product in a different way. And frankly, if the old guard set things up correctly, then even with this new technology and these new type of turnkey devices that are being put on the market, these manufacturers would have to sell them in a very specific way. There would be a standard of care. And only physicians who really wanted to meet that standard of care would buy these devices. Mm-hmm. And everything would be great. So when I hear these old guard politician idiots say that the device makers are ruining the field, and that these, the hair transplant tourism is ruining the field, they ruined the field. They gave these new people carte blanche to make fucking money. They saw it, and they're like, you know what? These idiot doctors gave us the license to print fucking money. I'm not going too far with the idiot, am I? Anyway, guys, phone number is 888-659-3727. So now I am taking it on, and I think this bears repeating, but because these devices are out there, and some of them are good in my opinion. They're just as good as some of the smaller devices that are being sold by hair transplant surgeons, or they can be used as well. They're out there. These guys who have them need to be trained. These guys who have them have to understand who makes good candidates and who makes poor candidates. And if they're allowing technicians to perform the surgery, if it's legal in their state, these doctors at least have to know how to lead this team and how to again, ensure that they're not performing surgery on the wrong person. Ensure that the angles of the grafts are placed correctly. Minimize or mitigate the possible damage that could be done in their practices. For the ISHRS or anybody to turn their backs on these companies or these doctors and just blame plastic surgeons for ruining their field, I mean,
the plastic surgeons are they're completely blameless in this.
They're oblivious to it. They have no idea.
They're completely blameless. They're oblivious to the issue. They're just being approached by device manufacturers with this, what seems to be common sense approach to them anyway. It's like, okay, why not? Sure.
Look, the current president, current president of the what is it? The ASAPS? Let me
ASAPS. Yeah.
Yeah, ASAPS, which is the, God, I can't remember. What does the acronym stand for? The American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The current president basically put out, and this is for public consumption, in a lawsuit that's happening now here in the state of California, that the standard of care in hair transplant surgery is to allow technicians to perform extractions. And the only reason and I think he truly believes that, is because there has been no standard of care established. This is a board-certified plastic surgeon. Now this is written in stone in the courts. And the reason that has happened is because out of pure fucking apathy, and in my view, the fact that, just like Dr. Verona stated, or I have to put this out, this particular specialty has been shrouded in secrecy. And it was done purposely over the years so that these guys can sell something to consumers without fully, or providing them with helping them to become fully informed before they make a decision.
Absolutely.
That's it. So now this is written in stone. They don't even realize the ramifications of this. When this is brought to my attention, I'm like, so you guys have the opportunity to participate in this lawsuit to provide a standard of care statement. And I saw what was written by a local Orange County physician. It would look like it was written by a child. Now, I'm talking about the guys who were trying to represent as an expert witness for the hair transplant side of things. I couldn't fucking believe it. Now, there were some points in there that made sense, but for the most part, it was really, really, I think this particular lawsuit will set a precedent, and the precedent is not going to be in the favor of the hair transplant field. That's all I'm going to say. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
It's Morty from Florida. Hey, guys.
Morty from Florida. How are you, man? Thanks for calling in. What's happening?
No worries, man. Doing all right, man. No complaints. I called in because you didn't have any lights on, so I figured I'd turn some lights on for you.
Well, and you did a good job. The phone's working. Thank you.
No worries. Don't really have too much to add, considering that I spoke to you guys on Tuesday. So I'm just going to hang back, and I'm going to wish you a happy Passover, and I'm going to wish you a happy Easter.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would like a happy Passover and a happy Easter.
Okay.
Just like a happy weekend.
Right ahead, then.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And anything new on the front, on the female front?
Well, let's see. There's the lady that I knew 20 years ago, lives down here. We're still talking on and off again. More friendly with the daughters than I am with her, and it's just so funny because they're all very actually attractive ladies. But her mom is kind of a difficult person to get a hold of, so I end up speaking more to her daughters than I do to her, which is a little disconcerting. But other than that, I mean, not too much. I got invited to some festive meals, one tonight, one tomorrow night.
That's
so
great.
Who knows who might show up at those things, you know?
Listen, there's nothing like meeting a girl at a Seder.
Exactly.
You know,
so
get them drunk in Manischewitz, and you never know what's going to happen, man. Do you know that I've lived in Los Angeles for almost 20 years, and when I originally moved here, I had a friend who's no longer a friend, apparently, because I started a message for him. It's a whole thing, but long story short, in the Jewish faith. If you are alone, or if you are like a lone Jew, even if you are with someone who's not Jewish, you're not around the ability to participate in Jewish festivities, in holidays, especially on Passover, you're supposed to be invited to a Seder. That's basically the way that it works. Now, if I were to have a Seder and there were any Jewish friends that I knew who were not going to a Seder, who had no religious people around them, or, not even religious, but just, people of their faith, they would be invited. This motherfucker never invited me to a Seder. I'm just putting it out there.
Wow.
Just
That's
putting it out there. And since I've gotten a place here in the studio, TBT studio in Beverly Hills, for the last 2 years, I'm obviously here a lot. I have been invited to multiple Seders, which is great.
As it should be, yeah.
That's the way it should be. But the reason I'm saying that is, I don't know, just people are fucked up. That's it. That's the moral of that story.
No, I couldn't agree more, Spence. It's a rare thing to find people like yourself and Joe who are willing to go out of their way and as you said many times, to basically act against their own best interests or financial interests or what have you, in the interest of others and in the interest of, just making life better for people like myself. And thank God for you guys.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. And the reality is, you're right. Sometimes Joe talks to me, he's like, oh man, it's so frustrating. No matter what we try to do, no matter how we try to guide you guys, obviously, or tell physicians what's happening to patients out there. Because, this guy like James, if you listened to the show last week, it took him 20 years to essentially let the physician know, the physician who he believes ruined his life, know that his handiwork destroyed a life.
20 years.
No,
20 years later. That's what blows my mind about that. I mean, when the way that you just said that, he went back after 20 years.
Yeah, and the only reason he went back is because I suggested that he did it. Now, when he first got on the program, his thing was, well, it didn't really do anything, and he kind of felt anxiety after it, and he doesn't even understand why he did it. I believe that it's extremely important for these guys to know what they have done to other human beings.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
And even though he didn't,
like a Christmas Carol, he thought he's going to be up at night with the ghost of hair transplants past.
100%. And even though, I was hoping that he would get something out of it, at least, maybe a few $1,000s, or just, because I know this particular guy has done that in the past. It doesn't make a difference, and that's why when he came back to us, I wanted him to know that, what, you did that. I think it's important that you did that. It's more important than you realize, because just telling that story on the air is going to prevent a lot of people who are listening to the show to go to this particular physician and to be harmed. And bottom line is, we're going to do our best to take care of James if we can.
No, I overheard the whole thing, and I'm amazed that you guys are reaching into your own pockets and putting your own reputations on the line for someone who you barely know. And,
I'm not. I will not reach into my own pockets anymore. But I will use my connections.
There's no pocket digging.
I will use my connections and this broadcast and the power of the show to do our best for this guy. And the reason the person who initiated this was Dan Danio. Who said he was listening to the broadcast, and he doesn't know if he could help this guy. But if he thinks that he can, and if the guy agrees, then he'd be more than happy to do a repair surgery pro bono. And then, obviously, what's happening in Manchester, and so it just kind of like unfolded that way. But no, to me, no good deed goes unpunished. I have done a lot over the years, and again, not to pat myself in the back, and sometimes when someone is very damaged, it's the last doctor that they blame for the end of their day, for their life's woes, and they kind of forget everything. I think James is a different situation because he knows it. He suffered with this for 20 years. He knows the reality of the situation. He knows the limitations of what he can have done, and by helping him, get repaired possibly pro bono at no charge, I think he's the type of guy, no matter how it goes, is going to be at least grateful for the effort, and I can guarantee he's going to look better no matter what.
And that's what it comes. That's the bottom line on this is, going from where he started to what he's dealt with for the past 20 years. Any half decent, in today's terms, hair restoration surgeon would be able to make a big improvement. I mean, you'd have to see his photos, but it's fairly straightforward to give him a big improvement.
Absolutely.
One of a few different ways. So no matter which direction he goes in, as long as he listens to us, it will be an improvement, period.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's an awesome. The fact that you spent, and I know you're very careful with your words, the fact that you use the word guarantee is impressive, and it also probably speaks volumes to the state the poor guy must be in.
Well, all right. What I'm saying, yes, I guarantee as far as you just have to take one graft out of his hairline, and there'll be an improvement. So that's what I guarantee. Yeah. Will I guarantee that he will be happy? No.
There you go.
No. I never said that. The fact that you can guarantee an objective improvement speaks volumes to the butchery that must have been done to him.
Yeah, but sadly, I mean, I've seen worse, but sadly, this is a subjective situation, and in the end, it's he who's going to have to be happy. And listen, subjectively, the doctor who performed the surgery may really believe that the work is fine and that there's something wrong with James. I was lucky enough. I was provided with the images from Joe, with permission from James, and I got to tell you, it's not atypical work for that time of in the industry. I mean, I would say, I mean, he brought down the temporal points and built them in a very odd way. The direction of growth is pretty shitty. This guy should never have been had surgery performed on him, but. From this particular doctor, I have actually seen worse.
And to be fair, across the board here, the biggest issue with why he is in the position that he's in is because he lost the rest of his hair.
Yes.
The hairline is inexcusable. The age at which he had his procedures, inexcusable, but it wouldn't be nearly the issue that it is now had he been able to tolerate finasteride and keep his hair. So this is more of a continued hair loss issue in conjunction with a bad hairline, as opposed to scars everywhere and like just this horrible plug job where everything's just all front to back all over the place. No, this was partially because of just continued loss. So with the right patience and the right approach, hairline adjustment and repair rate, like I was talking about in the previous broadcast, he's got options for that. And then the top is just coverage, just adding coverage. That's the easy part. Just adding grafts, the proper direction, proper angle, enough of which to grow and cover the scalp, even to a small degree, and that alone will make a massive aesthetic improvement.
I think even a slight buildup of his temporal points with some removal of the grafts placed that in the unnatural position and direction in the corners. I think he may get away with removing less grafts than I think Joe's original assessment. It just depends. It depends on the approach, but there's no doubt in my mind that I think that he can be made to look and feel like he looks normal. So, all right, Morty, listen, I appreciate the call. Good luck on your never-ending quest to find love. But just realize that we love you here at The Bald Truth.
It might be ending sometime.
I love both of you guys. Come on. I love you guys so much. And you know what? If there's no other reason to keep on getting up in the morning, it's the hope, it's the hope for love and for companionship. I mean, you've got common law, and Joe, you've got your lady. So, and while I do respect what you said about being happy alone, and I mean, hell, I'm going to be 50 and I'm still alone and I'm managing. You know what? You got to hold out hope for something in this life.
Let me tell you something. You're never more alone than when you're married. And that is the truth. And look, I'm very honest.
Here's the key.
You know,
here's the key, Morty. Here's the key. Forget about it and just find what makes you happy outside of relationships. Just find your niche. You know, find hobbies. Be happy, and shit will happen for you. And it always works like that.
The reality
when you're
is,
not looking, it finds you.
We have been just indoctrinated by movies and by music videos and by, you know, everyone saying, you know, you got to settle down, and why haven't you done this, and why are you not with somebody, and all this stuff, where it's a yearning from a young point in our lives. There is the biological yearning and the physical and the sexual yearning, and we all want to be socialized and to be around people. But coupling, man, I got to tell you, shit ain't natural. It is not natural. That's all I'm going to say. All right, Morty.
I hear you.
I'll talk to you later.
Have a great weekend. Have a happy Passover. Have a happy Easter. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
You too, buddy. Bye-bye.
I'm not even bitter. I'm just being honest. You know? For all the young guys out there who think they need to get married or live with somebody, or you could spend a lifetime with somebody and never live under the same roof. And I got to tell you, you'll probably be happier.
Mike R says, get this guy a Tinder.
Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727, 888-659-3727. So my volume, it doesn't sound any distorted. There's no distortion to you, does it?
No.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Because there's no compression, your volume just goes way through the roof. So just kind of going au naturel and seeing how it works on YouTube. Anyway, guys, we have some lines open, so call us. Phone number, 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. Otherwise, we were just going to go close up shop. I'm going to get a late lunch, early dinner, and just enjoy myself. And
start drinking.
And yeah, in every culture, in my culture, yes, FSK, I guess you're from the UK. In every culture, marriage, or at least in Western culture, marriage is an obsession. Women look at men as the finish line.
Yep.
That is it. You have to recognize that. You get involved with somebody, you're attracted to somebody at a young age. You are like, I want this woman. You're thinking to yourself, it's nice to have the company. That's great and all. But you're thinking about sex. You're thinking about having the company. They're thinking about whether or not you're going to be a good fucking provider. You're going to be able to, take care of them and their children. And they're looking for a husband. That's just the way that it is. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's just the reality that men have to recognize when they're getting involved with any woman.
Hold on. There's more to it.
I want to hear this.
They also want an ear to listen to their issues. They also want emotional support, which most guys aren't equipped to handle. They want a best friend. They want
protector.
Basically, yeah, protector. Yeah.
They want someone to speak. They want someone a what?
And a mind reader.
A mind reader, exactly. I was going to say a clairvoyant. They want a fucking mind reader.
Yeah.
Now, and also the goalposts shift. they move constantly, yeah. So you never quite know where you stand 1 week or 1 month from the next.
They're not like in the ground. They have wheels.
Yeah. And what we're talking about is not a particular unique type of a woman or an atypical woman or a woman who doesn't have her shit together or who's somehow fucked up. We're talking about almost all women.
Yeah.
That is just the reality. We are different than them. So, for all you young guys, and we'll take your calls, for all you young guys who are obsessed with getting involved in a relationship, I certainly understand that it is a wonderful thing to have a partner in life. But like with anything else, that is good. There's a lot of compromise, and there's a lot of things that aren't so great. So all you have to do is look at somebody over 40 pushing a shopping cart with his wife in any supermarket in the country, and you can see that the fucking life has been beaten out of this poor guy. These guys are. I'm talking about. I sometimes use some youngish.
No ways around this.
Yeah,
It's like you're over 40. You see the guy pushing the cart. He's dead. He's the Walking Dead.
Yeah, he is the Walking Dead. He is like, this is the best that it's ever going to be for me. And he's right, because then if there's a divorce, then he's living in some fucking shithole while she keeps the house, and he has to take care of the kids if he gets to see them.
If he even gets to see them.
Yeah.
The most common phrase spoken by married men. Yes, dear.
Yeah. No, I would say you're right. All right, guys, phone number 888-659-3727. And again, I'm not even bitter. This is just the reality of being a man. This is what a almost 54-year-old man can speak to, where a 30-year-old might not be able to. Depending on,
they're repeating it from the 54-year-olds they heard it from.
Yeah. I see that there is no true value in the end for a man to get married. That's it. Just my 2 cents. I mean, listen, if I had a farm and I needed fucking 8 kids to take care of, and you develop your own ecosystem, and, that's how life was. But it's a completely different world now. While you are, at work, your wife is on Facebook talking to her fucking high school, fucking flame, and showing shots, duck lip shots that are, that are getting a shot of her fucking cleavage and putting it on Instagram. That's the world that we live in today. You have to accept it. That's just it. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just the way that it is. Take a call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys, it's Mo from New Jersey. How you guys doing?
Hey, Mo, what's happening, man?
Hey, this is probably the realest episode I've ever tuned into.
Dude, it is. Well, listen, I speaketh the truth.
I know you speaketh the truth.
And that's why he's laughing, because he knows it's true.
See, I'm only 28, but I am married, and my God, are you guys not? Listen, I love my wife and I love my daughter, and I am fairly, young in the game, so I know I have a lot of years of miserable potential left.
A lot of misery ahead of you, man.
Yes, I know, and it's like what Chris Rock said in his stand-up. He's like, I believe in gay marriage, not because I'm a Democrat or Republican, because gay people have the right to be as miserable as anyone else.
That's right.
Listen, I just wanted to clear out there are perks, and there are, there are really great people and great women in this world. People just have to understand what they're getting into. It's not the fairy tale. It's not what you see on television and in movies. You're dealing with another human being with another completely different set of problems, and a family of another human being who have their fucking problems. And you never know what the fuck's going to happen. You can end up having some guy that just got out of fucking jail staying at your house for 4 months.
Right.
Not saying that happened to me, but I mean, that kind of shit happens. Yeah.
Well, it's a lot like hair, right? It's really subjective. Think about it. This is the bald truth. We always say, hair loss is really, not to sound like too philosophical, but it really is all about perspective, right? It's like, think about it. We always say someone's losing hair. Why don't we ever say they're gaining head? Think about it.
Yeah.
You know,
it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
No, but think about it, though, Joe. And also, of course it doesn't sound right. That's the whole point. But if you think about it, losing hair is really just gaining scalp. You know, it really isn't. You know, it really.
Yeah, listen, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna have to call. Have to call you on that one because you actually are hair is actually you're visibly seeing hair fall out and not regrow. Something that you once had, so you are losing. But yes, I get your the analogy that you're trying to make, or the metaphor.
Right.
I think it would be more accurate to say you're not losing yourself because your hair's falling out. You're gaining your new self because your scalp's being exposed.
Yeah. I mean, that's even a better way. But you know, it's all about perspective because we know, and obviously we're all men with insecurities. That's why we have this fucking show. That's for all of us.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, bro. I mean, yeah, that's because you have a perfect set of hair after 9 surgeries, and you have this weird elasticity that God fucks. I hope I have, and
it is weird.
You know, it is very weird. You know, if from your, you know, you may even be able to have another surgery if you wanted to. I don't know if you can. I really don't know.
I was actually giving myself options.
Don't go there, dude. Don't go there. I think Morty's listening.
No, we discussed that one.
All right.
I did my own assessment on myself, and if I were to go back to Dr. Wong and say, "Hey, what do you think about my laxity?" he'd say, "Yep, you're still a mutant." But here's the thing: I don't want to go through another strip surgery. It's like if I were to have another procedure, which I've kind of, you know, mentioned on air that it's kind of in the back of my mind, I'd do FUE.
He's got the donor region of a Shar-Pei.
Oh my God! I mean, it's just yeah. I mean, at this point, especially with all the strips you've had, you probably are better suited to FUE, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It's, you know, I've talked about it. Spencer's talked about it till we're both blue in the face. If you got a lot of hair loss, strip out first and then FUE, with exceptions,
well,
obviously. But
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. But there's a little delay on my end, which I apologize for. But it's
that's
you know.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. You guys and a few other clinics are even the clinic I didn't have a great experience with. Even them generally have preached that to the choir. You know, that strip, you know, go strip out and then, you know, go FUE once you can. But you know, I mean, we talked, you know, a few weeks back. You know, it's just the rise of FUE, which I do think it has its place, and I think it's an exceptional procedure when done right. It's just we're seeing a lot more fucked up things. Where listen, I saw this patient in obviously in Turkey, 19 years old. Otherwise, you know, not a great amount of loss. So I can understand why someone would say FUE just by face value. But 19 years old, the donor area is just totally wrecked. It looks like it went through hell, and he went FUE, and in all seriousness, he really didn't need a surgery. Well, nobody needs surgery, but you know, but how, in what sense I'm talking about?
Well, first of all, just the age. Right. Forget about FUE or FUT. Just the age of the kid. You know, 19 years old. Unless he started losing hair at 13, his hair loss would be limited, even if he started losing at 17 or 16. And to have surgery at 19, I mean, your brain isn't even fully formed until you're like 24 to 26, they say.
Yeah, 26, yeah.
You know?
26.
I mean, you know the shit that I was doing at 19 years old?
I don't want to know.
No, you don't want to know. you don't want to know. Why do you think, first of all, why do you think these, you see, well, I know why, but how many girls now are doing porn all the time? Because porn is like it's like the national pastime. It's like 18, 19, 20-year-old girls. Do you think if their brains were fully formed that they would have made that decision?
Of course not.
No fucking way.
Of course not. Of course not.
Yeah.
But you know, Spencer, it's not, you know, and you mentioned something while I was on hold, or you mentioned something really crucial about people having surgery at such a young age. I believe when I was at hold, and we're just seeing. Listen, I do think surgery is the best it's been in a while. Generally, in terms of, because obviously the more good you have, the more bad you have.
Yeah, not generally. I would say it is. I would say there's the possibility to have the best surgery today.
Yes. Oh, by far.
But
by
a much smaller segment of the hair transplant surgeon population. I mean, when I say that is, even the really great guys have been forced in their minds to migrate, or to I should say to kind of change their quality of care, because they were forced into doing FUE. They didn't decide. They didn't do it. They didn't embrace it early enough to have the time to really meet that learning curve. They just brought technicians into the field, into their practices, and they were letting technicians go on vulnerable patients, even guys with some of the best reputations. So the pool of really great guys have gotten smaller. Now we have to figure out how people choose from among the guys who aren't doing a tremendous amount of damage. And that's a fucked up thing that I'm saying, but that's the reality. So
it is reality, but your organization.
Joe, go ahead. Right. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mo, but I wanted to add to that with my take on it. I think that there are more quality options available today than there were, say, 10 years ago. Because when I was when I was working with one clinic and I was really in depth on the forums and
fucking brainwashed.
And fucking brainwashed.
Yeah.
No, there were. I think that there were a smaller overall group. I'm not talking about relative to the number of clinics performing the procedure. I just mean in general. There were a smaller number of clinics back then that were consistently doing great work. There were some diamonds in the rough that no one had really heard of, but they were few and far in between. But over the past, or since 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, however long, I think there are more clinics that have been exposed as being really consistent, really valuable to the overall quality pool, if you will. Like, you had Dr. Verona on the other day. He seems to be a top-notch talent, just based on talking to him and seeing his work. You got Dr. Lupinzula that started working with a few years ago. 10 years ago, no one in North America heard of him, but he's really awesome at what he does, and he's consistent. And those are just two examples. But I think that the pool of actual consistently really good and dependable, as far as dependable can be measured, clinics has grown. However, the pool of clinics overall has far outpaced that growth, to where, relatively speaking, there are fewer clinics today than ever before, simply because of the number of clinics doing the procedure overall, if that makes sense.
Can you repeat that?
Absolutely not.
So, Mo, but I get what you're saying. I really do. And you're right about that. In general, though, as you stated, I believe it's more difficult than ever to really separate the great doctors from the not so great doctors. When I started the IHRS, it was fucking easy. That's why I was a fucking target. That's why I was a hated man in this field, because I called these motherfuckers on their shit. And I said, you know what, guys? You guys are doing really good work. You guys need to be highlighted. Support what we're doing, and we'll make that happen. And they did it. And no one liked that. People did not like to be looked at as second-class citizens, as B, C, D players. But that's the reality. Now it's more difficult than it was.
Now it is more difficult, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a camera, has the access to, it's all about, again, it's all about perception. And now I'm not being philosophical here. It's all about marketing. I mean, we've talked about it loads of times, about a few clinics, not even, a specific, we talk about Nazareth all the time, right? But not even just, he had back in, I would say 6-7 years ago, before he went on and saying how, he's Jesus Christ. Literally, I'm not even playing for all the people that are, he had probably, I would say, the most comprehensive marketing and best, marketing team in the industry. I don't know if you guys may disagree. You guys may be exposed to more, but I think as a consumer, I would say that, and I think I have a fair point just because I'm a consumer.
There's no doubt in my mind that this guy and his original marketer, who now does not work for him,
right.
They chose to focus on YouTube early on.
At an early stage, yeah.
At an early stage. And they fucking dominated. And, there was a time, and I have to give Nazareth credit, because when they applied to the IHRS, and this is when he was really starting to make a name for himself on YouTube, and I just said, look, man, not enough time on tissue yet. I wasn't thrilled with the larger graphs that were being used. And, come back, apply anytime, but, give it at least a year. And they were, I would tell you, when I've rejected a lot of people over the years, they were some of the most respectful and easygoing about it, where other guys are like, you're kidding me. I'm willing to pay you and I can't be a part of this. I've never heard of such a thing. And that's the whole point of the IHRS. This guy, even though there were some issues, later in his career, in his life, was just like, thank you for the opportunity, to apply. Same with his consultant. And they understood it and they respected it. But as far as
listen, he had. I'm sorry. Again, the delay.
It's fine.
He had, I think, the smartest people in the industry around him, and because he just, honestly, I know some of the people around him, and that individual you're talking about that no longer works for him. Before he went on his whole messianism crusade, I really did think he had the best people working for him in terms of marketing and the respect concept you're talking about. I have a colleague of mine that knows them very well. Some that have left, some that are still there, and he just. Listen, I'll give him credit. He's changed the game. He really did change the game with YouTube, rather.
Yeah.
Not necessarily his results, obviously. I think the way the marketing, but it goes to say, again, it's not necessarily the best, person for the job. It's really all about perception. And listen, even recently, guys, you know this, he's bounced back in a very strong way. Maybe not as strong as he once was.
It's amazing. It you know what that speaks to? It speaks to just the insanity of this industry, but also, it definitely speaks to, there's, and I wrote a post about this on Instagram and someplace else, but that consumers really have to understand the difference between experts and influencers, and we live in a world of influencers. That's it. They may not know what the fuck's going on. I'm not saying his doctor doesn't know what's going on. He obviously has been performing surgery for a long time, and he has some happy patients for sure. But he was able to go through what he went through. He was able to do that in a very public way, where in any other industry, there's no bouncing back from that shit. Just would not happen.
No way.
No
way in hell.
And reinvent himself on the internet using the same tactics that he did before. All I can say is this is not a stupid man.
No, he's not.
And I definitely give him tremendous props for those abilities. And if some of the other doctors in the field, some of the guys that may be with the IHRS, had those abilities, early on, and frankly, even if I did, things would be in a much different position. There was something about the way, and again, he got in early, and the way he set up and rigged that, rigged his channel, and I don't mean rigged it like did something shady, but just made it palatable and easily accessible and something that patients can really understand. The language was done correctly. And even some of the stuff that I felt was tacky, as far as like the branding, shit like that, it works. It fucking works. Yeah.
It fucking works.
It works, but also keep in mind, there are a couple of things about this doc, is that we said it already, he got in at the right time. Like he was the first, as far as I know, he was the first YouTube we'll call sensation. But I will say this, like when you look at the numbers of some of his views, There's no way in hell it's real viewership.
That's true. I agree with that.
13 million views on a fucking hair transplant video. I call horseshit.
But here's the thing about that is, you know, for a while, YouTube, before they caught on to it, they used that as part of the algorithm, which helped him become more popular.
Of course. But here are the two reasons why I feel like he was able to, or the three reasons why he was able to get such a foothold in the industry, being a relatively independent clinic. And when I say that, he's not really a member of anything.
No,
like
he's
there's
not.
like I haven't been to his website in a long time, but I don't recall seeing any sort of memberships, even in in anything except for like local medical societies, something like that. So but it was the YouTube timing, okay, but it was also the fact that he got out there himself. It wasn't a spokesperson. It wasn't, you know, a consultant that worked for him. I think there were a couple of videos of someone that used to work for him, but he's the one on camera, and he's good on camera. That's the thing. I mean, he's got a believable presence. That's the word I'm looking for. He has presence. He has character.
Great word.
He has charisma, and he's very convincing. But then when you I decided to go to his channel. It's like when you look, the fact that he's still, at least in this video, still using a multi-blade scalpel.
Yeah.
Which
listen,
which went out of
vogue.
It became obsolete 20 years ago. And he's still using it and promoting it as state of the art.
In my first book in 1998, I essentially say that's a huge red flag. We talk about the multi-blade scalpel as like, things to avoid. And we're talking about 21 years ago.
And he's still doing it.
Yeah. Well, listen, it makes the process fast. It makes it easier. Yep. It is, in my view, when you use a multi-blade scalpel, you can't control the follicle transection, and you're causing what I would consider follicular holocaust on the top and the bottom of that strip. You are destroying possibly hundreds of grafts.
Oh, guaranteed hundreds of grafts. Yeah. I would say that you're destroying probably 20% of all. Well, I can't say like all, but like if you're going for a 2,000 graft strip, you're probably destroying 20% of it.
Absolutely.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And like Spencer said, it's fast. You can take out a strip in 10 minutes.
Right.
If it's done properly with a single blade scalpel, and the doctor, is actually taking his time to go in between the follicles, you have a very, very low transection rate that equals anything out there by FUE, and it'll take about 45 minutes to an hour.
And you'll notice that the physician who's doing it properly has to kind of pull on that strip, on that tissue, and actually kind of angle around. And so that's why the strip isn't necessarily completely a straight edge when it's done correctly, because they have to angle around using high-powered magnification the follicles on the border of the strip, so that they avoid transecting those follicles. Most guys don't do that. So, yeah, I mean, Joe's right. But what you're discussing is something totally different. The guy was a great marketer, and that's a very important point because, and I've said this before, this entire field, the entirety of cosmetic surgery really is not about medicine as far as who's the best. The best players in this field are the guys who have the best SEO and the best web design and the best content marketing, period. They are able to get themselves out there. You watch a show like Botched, for instance, and you're thinking, wow, these guys must be the best of the best of the best. And I'm not saying anything wrong with the one board-certified plastic surgeon who's extremely wealthy and on all types of television shows, and the other facial plastic and reconstructive surgeon who's also, on like all the housewife shows and stuff. There's nothing wrong with the work that they do, and they're both experts in their field. But how do you know they're the best? How do you know they're the best for their job?
Yeah.
How do you know they're not just the best marketers, or they're most telegenic?
we're at the point, I think, as a society now, right? I mean, I was just reading a book where it was actually it was a book for musicians, right? And basically it said, if you don't grasp the attention of the consumer today in 7 seconds in your song, you've already lost. Remember back in the day where you had, 7-8 minute song, a Led Zeppelin song would be 7-8 minutes,
sure,
where all these songs would be, that can't happen anymore because the society wants everything now. Now you can order, phone from your, food from your phone. You can, everything. We want everything in front of us and there. We don't want to research as in this society. And I'm speaking as a millennial. I'm 28 years old. I can speak to my generation, the generation right beneath me. I don't know, whatever the hell they call it, Generation X. The thing that's
my generation.
Yeah.
I am the last. I am the cusp of. If I was born in 1964, I would have been a baby boomer. I just got into Generation X.
Well, there you go.
I can't put that one on you.
That's
not the label I can
The thing
see.
is, the person in front is always the winner. I'll say one thing about Nazareth. People say he has an ego, this and that. He had one, I think, quality that a lot of these otherwise great doctors don't have. I think he had the ability to listen. I think he had the ability to listen to people around him and say, hey, look, this is what is needed. This is what is working in terms of, I'm only talking marketing now, right? And I think he listened and he went with it. He had some geniuses. And the guy himself, listen, he's a good-looking guy, right? The guy's charismatic. The guy can fucking run for president, in my opinion. He has all those qualities. He had that smile. He had that, and he looked the part too.
Well, you kind of see how he systematically dismantles. If you watch the chronological dismantling, I mean, most of them are taken off now, but of his, what was happening in his life, and you can see that in his videos, and you can see that there were, I'm trying to be diplomatic, there were forces that were in him and that he may have ingested that changed his cadence and his ability to communicate profoundly, actually. And that was out there for public consumption. And as I watched this systematic dismantling, and then when that shit finally came out, I was watching the whole thing. It was like a soap opera to me.
It was fun. It was funny as hell. It was. But no one see. But Joe, you mentioned something about the scalpel use. Which I mean, I now know from doing my research and mostly from listening to you guys. I know how backward it is, how damaging it is, and how inefficient in terms of result, and it is. But the person as a consumer, when I was first watching that, I didn't think it was a bad thing. And you know what? Another thing as a consumer, he really used to use. Oh, I can strip. Why bother with FUE, or why bother with other strip surgeons when they take so long? Where me using this method, I could do this really quick. I remember in his video, Spencer, you probably know, because it seems like you watched it. He used to pride himself on saying, okay, look at the clock now. There's the patient here. We're going to get started. And look, it took me 10 minutes to get a strip out.
And that's the beauty and that's the brilliance of it, because, just like the company Neograft, which I say, has done, they actually provided, and they developed some of the most elegant and simple but elegant marketing that changed the field. And that's the simplicity of it. Since the consumer doesn't understand, this is what we have been led to believe in life in general. If something is faster,
it's better.
It is better. If something is, it seems more complex, meaning, instead of having a single-bladed knife, we use a multi-bladed knife to get
more at once.
So you get more at once. We use a special blade that has a special handle that carries 2 blades. That seems sexy, and that seems like, it makes sense to us. More is better. It's more advanced.
Keep in mind that marketing in general is about finding the path of least resistance to get the consumer to buy. Path of least resistance. So in that vein, you're looking at faster, more at once than compared to other methods. More hair. I mean, that's one of the hallmarks of his presentation was we move more hair than the next guy.
Right.
And he wasn't wrong.
Oh, that was actually, he was being honest.
He was being honest, but it's just the way it's presented that's misleading. And when you've got these, when I say multi-hair grafts, I'm talking mini grafts from back in the day, which would have 6 or more hairs in them, like I used to have. Well, yeah, it's more hair per graft.
Call it what it is.
But who wants that? You start combing through that for the close-up, you're going to see some, pretty. I mean, there's so many arguments against that. There's more interruption in the blood flow. There's more potential for scarring. There's more potential for, Jesus. I mean, there's so many things that are wrong with such big grafts like that. That's why follicular unit grafting came into existence to begin with. That's why microscopes are used to begin with. I've written pages and pages about this. On my
there are
website,
guys out there like at one point the doctor out of Long Island, and even they're like, we don't need no stinking microscopes. That's just that's all marketing bullshit. That's what this guy told me. And then when he realized he couldn't get into the IHRS, he's like, I want to come on the show and say why I'm the converted.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, this industry in general, the entire field, not just hair, and we focus on hair. It's all about the best marketer wins, the biggest personality wins. If you happen to get yourself now on television, or if you do well, if you have a big Instagram following, listen, there's a guy, and this guy actually happens to be good, but here's an example of how marketing works. A guy by the name of Jason Emmer, he's a procedural dermatologist here in Beverly Hills. He's just gotten to town 5 years ago. Had really not much of a practice at all. Now, again, I want to give him props because what he does is very unique and he's really good at it. But what got him over the top was not, in my view, just his skill set. It was because he had a team, and he was young. He's young himself, to get himself out there on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, market the shit out of himself with live videos. I've had him on my program, my pilot show, Plastic Surgery Live, a couple of times. We went live with him. But this guy owns the online landscape. And he went from zero to having a huge fucking practice in West Hollywood now that he just built. Like, unbelievable. You have no idea what the rent of something like that, how much money they had to bring in just to cover the overhead. And it is purely because of his marketing. Now, with that said, at least this guy can back up his marketing with outstanding results.
Yeah.
But that's rare. So it wouldn't make a difference. He could have been a hack, and he is not, but he would have gotten the same business.
Well, Spence, let me say this: the thing about marketing and hair, and I'm gonna let you guys go because I know you probably have other callers.
I'm just kidding.
Good. But is that you don't even need to have great results for the marketing to work. I mean, Nazareth has some. I mean, what seems like otherwise, some solid results, right? But there was obviously another physician who worked under him, who's been on Dr. Oz. You guys know exactly who the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Think about that, because now the consumer is going to think, all right, Dr. Oz, we equate Dr. Oz, whether he's a fraud or whether he's not, but we equate him with holistic, we equate him with natural, we equate him with overall the right way to go about it.
When Dr. Oz says that this guy is a leading, first he said leading hair transplant expert, perhaps the most, or I don't know how you put it, like the best.
He said one of the best.
One of the best surgeons in the world in this specialty. It's unfucking believable. Now
it is unfucking believable. And but the thing about his video is that he hasn't even had great results, but he the fact that I've seen something with not just him and other people in Turkey and in India, I've seen they have a go through of the patient coming in, the patient going through the surgery, and then the patient post surgery.
That's all that people need today. Results.
That's all they need.
Results. People aren't even looking at results. They're looking at experiences. They're looking at post-surgical, intraoperative stuff, hearing how comfortable the patient is, directly after the surgery, how things went, all that fucking happy horse shit. And you motherfuckers are sold on that. I'd be like, show me the money, motherfuckers. I want to see the results. I want to see if this guy is crying in his super wearing a hat a year later. That's what I want to see.
Listen, I will say, and I'm gonna hang up after this. I think, Spence, on my end as a consumer, I think the IAHRS, your organization, is a great organization. I found out about it quite later than I should have known about it. The only thing I think the problem with that, not the organization, but the doctors the next doctor I'm going to is an IHRS associate member, Hattigan Hair Clinic.
Right.
But I will say, even other surgeons I was considering before that were members of the organization, the only thing I would request from you, and I know you probably have said it, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that to get their heads out of their asses and to market the way that they are marketed, because a lot of them have fantastic, these are the best of the best, but we don't even know a lot of them, because as a consumer, I didn't know about them till much later.
It is like fucking herding cats with these people. It
Absolutely.
is. You know what they want? They want to be put on the organization, and they want the organization to work for them. Now, I choose not to do it that way. And I want to create a real organization. I have no online consultations. I am not going to market these people. I am not going to sell surgery. But what I give them is the opportunity to leverage the fact that they are accepted into what is considered, and this is not these aren't my words, the most respected and absolutely the most referenced organizations in this field in the world, period. They have that leverage. So you are right. They should be marketing that. They should be marketing themselves better. But these guys are unbelievably apathetic.
I just think it's an ego thing. And I will say, as a suggestion, and I could be totally wrong with this, but just as an outsider, as a suggestion, I think maybe you should even implement a rule saying that there should be a number of results or a number of, however type of marketing a month or a week or a year, however, because
let me explain how that works.
That's a 28-year-old idea, which is not a bad idea. It's idealistic.
It's a great idea.
It's idealistic.
It's an awesome idea, but it's very idealistic.
Yeah.
The way it works is this. Spencer said it. They join an organization, they pay the money, and they sit back expecting, the line to form out the door.
Leads.
It's not the way it works.
Yeah.
It absolutely is not the way it works. The way it works is someone in that organization has to get off their own ass and put those tools that they're paying for to work for them. I have talked to so many doctors about this. I have actually sent out a blueprint how to market your clinic the right way. And of course that means ethically and, education and all this good stuff. It's to say it's difficult is laughable. Only because there's a concept issue here, or what's the word I'm looking for? There's an awareness issue here. A lot of the doctors out there, some get it, most don't. And even when I'm, working with some doctors, I can tell them you need to do A, B, C, and D to get to the point that you want to be. And they sit there and they'll scratch their heads and they'll be like, oh, okay, all right. And guess what happens? Sweet fuck all. Nothing. And it's because there's a comprehension issue, even when it's explained, but there's also a fear of stepping outside of what they are used to, putting themselves out there for whatever I might suggest for them. It's difficult for a lot of them to even take the step, much less comprehend the step.
Look, I told you, and Joe's right about all of that. I told you earlier in the program, I had a company that all these companies have approached me, but I had a company who approached me that's like, look, we want our physicians to really be the best informed and best educated and the best surgeons they can be using our product, which is brilliant. That's the way these device makers should think. And they want to work with, and they came to me, who they consider, and these are marketers who make a lot of money, who are in this business, a business of selling boxes. They see us, the IHRS, as the most relevant and the most powerful and the most respected organization in the industry. And they want to work with us, not any of the other organizations, to help their doctors to have a competitive edge and to leverage what we've already put out there, and, you know, truth in advertising, you know, educating consumers, all that stuff. When these people approached me, I wasn't shocked, but I was a little bit, I said, so you really want your doctors, do you think your doctors will take the time to learn how to do this right? And what they said to me is like, that's your choice. That's up to you. If you think that they're willing to do it, we could offer them this opportunity. There have been a few doctors who want that competitive edge and who are willing to actually train with our IHRS members. That's like the first time in history that this has happened. You know, so we're getting there, Mo. We're getting to the point where we're going to be able to help more people. But the old guys that have been in the IHRS for a long time, I don't know if they're starting to get it, but I don't know if they are going to move in the direction that you would hope, meaning getting themselves out there more, leveraging our resources to get to the consumer so the consumer better understands, you know, why they're part of what we do. You know, if you had a guy like even Dr. Yazdan, I mean, he was on the show once, right? Or twice. People are contacting me about him like crazy because he has such, and also we did a couple of videos with him, because he has such a powerful personality. You know, they're drawn to that. This guy, Yazdan, can kill it on YouTube. Absolutely kill it on YouTube. He's young. He's got, you know, incredible energy. He's really good at what he does. He's selective when it comes to his patients. But will he do it? I don't know.
Listen, this is what I will say. I'm 28, and we are the next. Well, obviously, I already lost, you know, almost all my hair, right? That's why I'm on the show. We are the next incoming class of bald graduates, okay?
Yes.
And these dinosaurs have to start realizing that that's the only way forward. Well, you know, and either they catch up with it now, because the winner is not really. I mean, what's it showing you? The winner is not necessarily the person who has the best results. The winner is really the person who's in front of you more. You know, so that's really the winner. Maybe not the, you know, for the patient
and
itself,
not just directly with their own marketing, but also with people that might be associated with that clinic on the periphery, also making comments. Sometimes not as, you know, not revealing who they really are. I mean, there's a lot of that going on, pushing clinics that, as you say, may not have the best results, but they're the most popular. Sometimes there's a lot more to it than you realize.
No, there is. But listen, guys, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna listen to the rest of the show, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. All right.
All right, Mo. Thanks for the call, man.
Good talking.
No problem, guys.
Take care.
Take it easy.
Bye bye. Millennial Mo. That's what I'm going to start calling him.
Millennial Mo.
888-659-3727 is the toll-free number, and he's absolutely right. I mean, any doctor that's listening to this program has to understand. You know, listen, the meeting that we're doing in Manchester, the old guard is giving a lot of flack. You know, the theme is essentially be relevant. You know, we are the voice of hair transplant surgery, period. And FUE Europe and the IHRS decided to get together to create an educational meeting or congress or whatever you want to call it that is unique to anything that's ever been put out there before, where we are getting consumers or the, you know, people who have their finger on the pulse of the hair transplant consumer, together with the scientific aspect of things and the physicians who are involved in the field, not separate that. Because keeping that separate really is why the field is where it is today. Totally lost. Losing, you know, any possibility of people really, you know, like when I tell a lot of these guys, and I even said this to the president of the ISHRS, I'm like, We have to give these consumers a fucking fighting chance. They have to have the information in front of them. The ISHRS should be embracing the IAHRS and what we are doing. And we should all be able to work together without fear of losing, you know, a fucking turf war or fear of competition. There's no competition. I mean, honestly, this sounds obnoxious, but they can't compete with us, Joe. That's just the reality of it. You know,
look, I think that when it's understood, like when you look at the video I made, it very simply lays it out. You know, ISHRS for all of their how can I put it? I'll put it a different way. ISHRS is fantastic when it comes to being an educational society. You know, there are a lot of people involved with teaching other doctors. They've got these all kinds of workshops that they put on all around the world, and I think that's a great thing. And that's their original charter. Is that the way you say it? That's
their mission.
Yeah, mission to for collegiality, to get doctors to know each other and to share and to educate and to teach. And I think that's fantastic. But I you know, there's this idea that I think some people have where they're also a consumer organization, where there's a level of quality that they want to portray with their organization for the consumer. And I can't say that that's actually entirely accurate. There are very, you know, the membership requirements are vastly different. With IAHRS, it is strictly a consumer organization that is taking on this educational aspect because that's just a natural progression. But the baseline work has already been done to establish standards for membership to begin with, as far as the ethics and the quality of the work, and you know, the complaints that may or may not be coming through to American Hair Loss Association. There are vast differences between the two. So I got to agree that there is no competition because it's two separate entities in two separate arenas to begin with.
Well, I was told directly.
There's no crossover.
I was told directly that the ISHRS, and I was told this by the president of the ISHRS on a phone call, the ISHRS will never, the word was never, support or promote the IAHRS for one reason and one reason only, or at least the reason, this is what was given to me on the phone. They do not want their future dependent or to be dependent on an outside source like me. And I said, first of all, that wouldn't be the case. The whole idea is to not just coexist, but to actually collaborate, use our, you know, equal strengths. I don't want to start an organization where I have to fucking, you know, start a board certification process, or I have to start to do scientific meetings. I'm doing the first one with FUE Europe kind of as a trial run. I don't want to go in that direction. That is your fucking wheelhouse. And I said, secondly, this idea of competition, there is no competition. If I left you guys to your own devices, if I didn't call out the problems that you guys are having, I could just sit back and you guys would eventually make yourselves completely so irrelevant that you're not going to have anything to control. You're not going to have any feature to control. So my whole point is I want to be involved as far as doing what I do on the consumer end to help this organization not only survive, but thrive within their own wheelhouse, because they have the numbers.
Yep.
And I mean, together we can completely change this field. It would take maybe 24 months. And they essentially refused that opportunity. So I have to do what I have to do. That's just the way that it is. We're moving forward. We have organized, and now we're mobilizing. That's it.
It's such a lost opportunity. It's such a, and I say that for the consumers because if both sides could come together and work together on the level that you have in mind, it would be such a boon for the consumer, for the patient, which is what it's all about to begin with.
That's going to happen. I mean, we may not be able to work together. It's going to happen for the consumer. The problem is it's going to take me longer to
It'll
make
take
that
longer,
happen.
yeah,
So
exactly.
say in the next 2 years, you know how many people are going to be damaged? Tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, but today, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of men and women who are now home from surgery thinking they did the right thing, and they have no fucking clue that their lives were destroyed today.
And you know what? Some have gotten home from surgery today and have already realized that they made a bad mistake,
right?
Bad decision.
We could eradicate that. We could eradicate that within a very short period of time. And I'm told all the time, stop attacking the ISHS. I am not attacking the ISHS. I am trying to save your asses and to save this field and to work in a manner in which it actually is first do no harm instead of show me the fucking money. Helping people, that's your mission, right? Educating, I wrote this on our Facebook group, or on our WhatsApp group. I said, John Cole had written something about the value of the ISHRS, and I said, yeah, that's the real value of the ISHRS, to teach, to give all of those interested in the field the tools that are needed to actually help patients, to support an established standard of care which currently doesn't exist in the field, and to recognize that it's time to put patients, I just spit on the mic, before politics. As I've written before, the ISHRS must no longer be blinded by their own vulnerabilities. The assumptions on which the organization has been built and is being run no longer fit reality, but there's a tremendous opportunity for the group to regroup and to concentrate on truly developing their original mission and working within the wheelhouse that they understand and where they can thrive. I see that as a fucking positive message.
Yeah.
Like, you guys got this. You already know how to do something. Victoria Say puts on a fucking great show. She could put on some fucking meeting. You guys are good at that. Anyway, I guess this is for those who are listening to the doctors who are listening to the broadcast. And also, I think it's important to provide some inside baseball to the consumers so they know what's going on, why things are being held back, why things are the way they are today. And I believe they are the way they are today because of apathy, because of people putting politics before patients, because of stubbornness, because these guys have this false sense of control when they don't control shit. Just like Mo said, the best marketer wins. And they could be the worst doctors.
Yeah.
The influencers.
A lot of times they are.
Control this field. FUE is a great example, how patients control the field as well. None of these guys wanted to do FUE, but we got it out there. Guys like Feral Man, who allowed hair loss help to be utilized specifically for FUE back in the very beginning stages when I introduced Ray Woods to him. And he then sent his brother down to check out Ray to see if, in fact, Ray Woods was legitimate. And then we started to talk about it on the show and write about it on message forums. And the consumer's like, hey, man, we want this. And it was unstoppable. If the ISHRS had control of this field, FUE would not exist. That is the truth. So they've never had control. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Jonathan from Chicago.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hello,
from
Jonathan.
Chicago. Welcome.
How you doing? I just had a quick question for you guys. I was curious why you don't recommend getting a smaller transplant, like 500 grafts or sub 1,000. You don't see a lot of that.
There's a lot of reasons, and depends, I mean, Joe can answer that directly as well because he's been in the trenches for so long. But, as far as I'm concerned, and knowing what I know for the last 20-some-odd years, most people who with androgenetic alopecia, common male pattern hair loss, who only need 500 grafts to fill in a particular area, probably aren't candidates for surgery, because once you are cut, you're cut. Once you go into that balding area and have surgery performed, you have a chance of collagen effluvium or shock loss. You have a chance of going down a path that you may have not really considered because you figured, hey, I only need a little help in the temporal regions. You may then, you could again exacerbate your hair loss. You just naturally occurring hair loss may happen more rapidly than you thought. So in the year that it takes for that hair to grow out, you can continue to thin, and then you're back in the chair again for another procedure. I believe unless you need at least 1,500 grafts, then you shouldn't even consider going through a chair. And frankly, I think even more. Joe?
Okay. Yeah,
I think that when you're looking at it, like if you say 500 grafts, I think, which is basically a summary of what Spencer said, if it's only 500 grafts that you're looking for, then how bad is the condition that you're trying to address to begin with? 500 grafts doesn't address male pattern hair loss. 500 grafts addresses a deficiency that bothers you.
Scarring, too, or whatever.
Now, with that said, there are exceptions to every opinion that I have about this, because I was talking to someone the other day that he had basically a non-existent temple point on one side. The other side was a naturally strong temple point. He had no real hair loss to speak of. Maybe the beginning throes of some hair loss, but he wasn't, a teenager. He was physically a mature male. And I could actually see how that would really bother someone. So maybe cases like that, but still, I mean, you gotta really, really think about it. I mean, is it something that's affecting your life to the point where you wake up every morning and you dread looking in the mirror? Or is it just a minor, it's like, man, this kind of bugs me. I don't think it's enough to warrant surgery.
I guess the angle I was looking at it from is because you see a lot of guys now going for the mega surgeries, and they go in and they get screwed up, and then where do you go from there? You don't have any options. So as if you're taking, you see a guy go to one doctor and the doctor screws it up. So then they come back, then they're done. They don't have any.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely. And in fact, contrary to what people may remember from my approach years ago, I'm not a big fan of those big surgeries. I've never had a big surgery. Of all the surgeries I've had, not a single one was more than 2,588 grafts. That was the biggest one I ever had. And I've seen those cases where it was 5,000 grafts, 6,000 grafts, and they didn't turn out well. And guess what the options were for that patient? Not much. Like when you need a big surgery like that, or like when you go in for a big surgery like that because you got that much hair loss and it doesn't work out, then guess what? You're going to continue to be bald because you don't have enough hair to address it like you were hoping. Not anymore anyway. And you got some scarring to go along with it. How's that feel? Yeah, good stuff. Right. That's why I'm not a fan of it. Now, am I against it completely? No. As long as the patient is informed up front, look, there are no guarantees with this. Good luck getting that, but there are no guarantees with this. If you're not happy, then there's not a whole lot more donor hair to get after the fact. So, as long as you understand this and, we got a good record of dealing with these big sessions, then go for it. But I'm just not a fan of it. I like the idea of 3,000 graft surgeries. I like that. I think it's fairly safe. I think it, as far as safe goes for surgery, I think it gives you options if you don't have the result that you were hoping for. Very rare for a surgery to be a complete failure, but I've seen it. So I think that people just need to keep that in mind when they're being impressed by these big surgeries. There was a procedure that was just shown recently, 4,000 grafts, and the guy was not even a Norwood 3. He was beyond a Norwood 2, not quite a Norwood 3, and it was well over 4,000 grafts to rebuild a hairline. Beautiful result. Massive misuse of donor resources. Didn't like it. Looked great, but how is it going to last? How much more donor hair does he have when everything behind that first 2 inches thins out? Not much, because it was FUE.
Right. Well, that would be my concern going into it, because I've maintained my hairline. I'm in my early 40s. I've maintained my hairline, and but I probably need about 1,500 grafts. I'm about 2 inches behind my hairline. I need some work done. But and I've been looking for a while, and I'm a little nervous because I have quite a bit of hair, and I wasn't sure why people don't attack it that way more often. I mean, I understand you go to the doctor and maybe, the cost is not a concern. Okay. So it's just, why not approach it in a safer manner and go, say, 1,000 grafts and then maybe see what happens in a year and then go back. Is it because the surgery is, you're taking too much risk each time?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. Like, look at my own case. I've had nine procedures, and everyone assumes when they read my story and everything, they're like, oh, okay, well, every surgery was, for your repair surgery. I had 7 with Dr. Wong and 2 before him. All 7 surgeries must have been a walk in the park. Nope. I had to have a scar revision after I forgot which one. I think it was after the 3rd one. I had to have a scar revision on the back because it stretched. It wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't like, 2 inches wide or anything like that, but it was noticeably wide. And I had to have that revised. So my point is that every time you go back in for surgery, the odds of something negative being part of the outcome go up. Statistically, I mean, eventually you can't avoid it. Statistically, it gets more and more likely that you're going to be unhappy with something from that procedure. So in your case, when you say that we're thinking about putting 1,000, 2 inches behind your hairline. How much hair is there? And have you tried concealers? Have you tried, finasteride to thicken things up? Concealer. Okay.
Yes, I've been on finasteride. Actually, because of you guys, I've been on finasteride for several years, and I think it has halted it. I didn't start losing it until my late 30s. So, and at this point, and I do use the finasteride once a week, because I didn't think that the finasteride was. Back when I was looking into it, there was a little bit of talk about using dutasteride as a add-on. So I went ahead and did that, and I think that's worked. And because I was getting a lot of itching and that, in the areas where I was losing. Once I added dutasteride, that seemed to get rid of it. I don't know if it was if the finasteride was enough at the time. Okay. So.
Well, maybe not. Maybe dutasteride put you over the edge there, so it's good. But so, like what is your routine like? I mean, is it something where it's obviously thin, or is it just bug you, or like what are you dealing with? Hello?
Yeah, no, it bugs me. It bugs me. It's gotten to the point where it's a daily routine that I just don't want to go through anymore. Yeah, and I would like to have things thinking. Well,
let me tell you, the daily routine of trying to cover up a destroyed donor area potentially, or dealing with shock loss and having to redistribute or reconfigure your hairstyle in some way, because now all you do is have grafted hair behind your original hairline. That would be a much worse situation. And you got to kind of put that into perspective. I'm all for surgery for the right candidate. And you may be a good candidate for surgery. But if you can't deal, and you have to put this into perspective, with the possible downsides of surgery, and you still have enough hair to dummy up and go out in the world and look good, then you really have to put that into the equation and consider how much worse would it be for you if things went wrong compared to where you are right now.
And that goes back to the first video in my hair transplant class series here on my YouTube channel. What would you do if it didn't turn out? If not only let's say not all the grafts grew. Okay, not the end of the world. It's only 1,000 grafts, but What happens if you got permanent shock loss because whoever you went to damaged too much of your native hair and it looks thinner rather than fuller a year later? What would you do then? How would you feel about it? Would you feel like it was worth it? Or would you sit there and say to yourself, maybe concealer wasn't such a bad idea?
You there, caller?
Yeah, I'm there. I get that point.
Here's my reality. I'm older than you, right? I'm in my I'm gonna be in my mid-50s soon, and I see people in the chat. I see people, when I meet people, like, wow, your hair looks great. What are you even doing this for? I paint my head. That's what I do, and I have a lot of hairspray. And could I go in and have multiple surgeries in the mid-anterior scalp and the crown, and where my loss is? Absolutely. Wouldn't cost me a dime. I can have it done tomorrow. I can go right across the street. Makes no difference. I could have a full-time nurse taking care of me to make sure that, my head is washed and whatever. Doesn't make a difference. I choose not to do it because I know what the possible downside is. And, I understand the entire scope and all the possible pitfalls. And for me, dealing with potentially permanent shock loss, or if the grafts that I used did not grow well in that particular area, I would feel they were a waste. I want to keep as much of my donor as possible for potential future loss. There may be a time when you actually do lose your hairline, and you're going to need those grafts. I mean, there's so many different options. My whole thing is, for me, I don't mind, and maybe it's because this is what I do, and I'm out there, and I'm public, I don't mind telling the world that I dummy up my hair, and that it's a process, that it takes me 20 minutes to, get myself ready to go out. And that's it. Yeah. Is it a pain in the ass? 100%. When you explain it to women, if you're at a party or whatever, that you paint your head and, don't mess up my hair because it took me 20 minutes to get it this way, they don't fully understand it. It's not politically, it's the last bastion of political incorrectness. We are not, as men, allowed to talk about this as an issue. But, I'd much rather put makeup on my head than deal with a potentially bad outcome from surgery that I could use, but I really don't need. And that's my take on it.
So is there what are the odds of getting messed up? Is there any statistics on that, or any? I mean, if you go into a good surgeon, a well-known, somebody that pumps out, is it 10 and 100? Is it 10%? Is it?
Well, okay. Let me stop you there. We got to define what does it mean to be messed up.
Yeah.
It's like what is the definition of messed up? Some grafts didn't grow, bad scarring.
Results that someone's not happy with. Is it 50%?
That's subjective. That's the problem. It's so
if you so if you're going to have that loose of a application to not happy or bad outcome, I'd say 40% of all patients that have a hair transplant are not happy.
Yeah,
as they could be,
or as they should be.
Okay,
or should be. Yeah, how's that grab you?
And that's all based on the subjectivity of it.
What's that?
Oh, I understand that. Yeah. I understand. I was going to say that's something you never hear people talk about. It's how many cases, because you hear about a lot of people that are unhappy but maybe some people are too focused on it.
Well, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
I actually disagree with that. I disagree with that because I can't count how many people I've spoken to that I'm looking at their result. I'm like, that's a pretty good result, and they're thinking, well, it's not dense enough. And what it comes down to is they're not happy about the density because they weren't properly informed, or they didn't, or maybe the attempts were made for them to be informed, but they couldn't grasp the idea that it's just a relative issue, that it wasn't going to be as thick as it used to be before they even lost.
Well, and I think that's possibly what he meant by these guys are just focusing on focusing on the wrong things. They have unrealistic expectations. They are willing to, people have the tendency to hear what they want to hear. And, that's why I actually believe that all consultations should be taped, and that patients should have the ability to bring home the audio tape, and the physician and the consultant should have the ability to have a copy of that as well, so that when things are stated, and when a patient comes back and says, "Hey, you never told me this," be like, "Oh, wait a second, I actually did. You just weren't listening." And it's actually a great way for the patient to actually go back and listen to that consultation after the consultation, when maybe they had, sit down, relax, have a glass of wine, and listen to it with someone who could be more objective, like a loved one, to kind of really listen to what was told to them. But doctors don't do that. Maybe we'll change that.
I agree with that 100%. I'd love to see that. I've talked to a couple of doctors I work with about recording their consultations as well.
It's for everybody's
I
value.
Think it's a great idea.
It's a value to everybody involved. But listen, man, we're gonna take one last call and then we got to run. Joe, you good with another call?
I'm good with another call.
Okay. I hope that this call helped you out. Do not rush into surgery. Surgery will always be there for you, man.
For sure. Thank you, guys.
All right. Good luck.
All right. Thanks for calling.
888-659-3727. Yeah, I can use 500 grafts in the part for sure.
Yeah.
Probably 1,000, and it would really make a difference in my daily styling regimen for sure. I will not fuck with it.
There are things that I could change or enhance about my own result. Like one of my temple points, there's little things that, technically they're perfect, but there are little things that I'd change. Am I going to? No. Don't care to.
Huh.
I'm done. Maybe.
Well, talk to Morty about it. Let's see who this is.
I'll talk to Morty about it.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys. How you doing? It's Mike calling from New York. How are you?
Mike from New York.
Hello,
How are you?
Good, thanks. I'm hoping I'm not holding you guys up today. Thanks for taking my call.
No, listen, Joe runs the show. It's up to him. He's got things to do.
Fingers on the button.
No,
it's good.
See, this is actually my life, and I will do anything for you guys. So I will stay here for as long and as late as I have to.
You're just limited by me and my attitude.
That's right. But go ahead.
What's going on, Mike?
It's kind of similar to the last caller, although not really. I started losing it in my early 20s. He's saying his early 30s, so maybe you could understand where I'm coming from.
He actually said late 30s, but yeah, go ahead.
Late 30s, yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, I just spoke to you guys a little over a month ago, and I was talking about I went to have a consultation with Dr. Bernstein here in New York.
Okay.
And just wanted to tell you how it went and basically just remind you. So I'm an early Norwood 5. I have a significant recession, and then it's staying pretty bad in the back. And my number one thing, which is kind of what you guys were talking about a lot in the last call, was I don't have a hairline. It's gone back. It's one of the number one things that bothers me. The concealers don't help me, and with as far as
if there's no hair, there's nothing to grab onto. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a problem, and it affects my look, and the face isn't framed. So basically, I went in, and it was a good experience, and the money I paid was worth it. And basically, what he said, and we talked a lot about other stuff, and one of the main things we spoke about last time I called was how I'm not on Propecia, and we got into that, and he gave me a lot of information about that opened my eyes a little bit as far as his experience with it and prescribing it and all that, but the story is that he would be able to rebuild the hairline, and he said it would take approximately 1,000, 1,100 grafts. And, that would just bring me the bottom line, what I'm trying to bring out. It would be the most amazing thing if I ever got that, and I got that back and all that. But the reality is that probably looking at more than one surgery. And, it's just such a very tough spot I'm in. And I guess I wanted to get a few more 2 cents, even though I have an idea what you guys are going to say. But that's the bottom line.
Well, but if you are you're in your late 40s, you said early 40s.
No, I'm 34.
Oh, you're 34. 34.
Started losing it early 20s, and
yeah. Well, I can tell you that I'm sure that Dr. Bernstein was very open about his experiences with finasteride and all the patients who he has on finasteride. I don't know if his perception of the drug changed at all over the years, but I'm pretty sure he still thinks it's a good idea for a guy your age who's considering surgery to be on it.
Yeah, and I was even, to be honest, a little surprised how he said that he would do the surgery, even with me admitting I'm not on Propecia, and even though it's in reality still really kind of early for me. And one of the things he did say, I really don't want to quote him, but one of the things he implied at least was, well, my forelock is not, there's no baldness in my forelock, it's just thinning. And it was something along the lines of, oh, maybe, well, why do it right now? Or maybe you wait until that starts going, and then you're up it to, like, let's say a 1,500 procedure, because, instead of the possibility of 2 surgeries. Because my hope and my dream, even though I know it's a bit of a pipe dream, is one and done. And even though I know there would be loss and there'd still be concealers to work with, but my thing has always just been the hairline. And
what did he tell you about getting on Propecia?
We just went over my concerns about for years and years in my research, and he said, basically gave me throughout his whole career, his statistics on it, and what he's seen and what he's experienced, and he basically implied that I should be on it, or I should at least get another opinion, because I seem to be a little, I should say, rather anxious about the drug based on everything I've experienced and read, and to feel more comfortable and stuff like that.
The reality is, if you would have, gotten on the drug early, and if you did well with it, you probably there's a good chance that you wouldn't have to have had that consultation.
I'm well aware of that and everything that behind that comment you just made. I know. Yeah. It's just I talked to the last call we had was very much Propecia based, and it's just it's just a long story the way I feel about that.
And I understand it, and I might have felt the same way as you do based on all the stuff that's online, and I don't know. Honestly, I was so. It affected me so badly that even with the information and some of the fear mongering online and the actual information online, I probably would have taken it anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think
you would have taken, even though the FDA has forced them to put on their label that even after discontinuation it's possible, even if it is a minuscule percent, just the fact that that is on the label of that medication.
Absolutely, because I know I know why things have to be put on a label for any drug.
And he actually ended up making me feel more comfortable about Propecia, to be honest with you, with all the information he gave me.
Yeah, by law, if there are enough complaints, or if there's enough push for a drug company to put something on its label after it's been on the market, no matter how long, by law they have to do that. If it is a what is it called, Joe? After trial or post trial side effects. Right. If they are reported directly to the FDA is obligated to put that on their label, on their insert. Period.
Yeah, and that's kind of what he explained to me.
Yeah. So it does not mean that they were able to prove any causal effect whatsoever. It just means that these side effects have been reported. If I decided to get 1,000 guys together and say that that all these guys all of a sudden began to speak Spanish in their sleep because they were taking this drug, that side effect would have to, as insane as that sounds, Joe, it would have to be reported.
Some users have reported side effects of speaking foreign languages in their sleep.
It's not like I'm making a joke. That's the reality. If they went to the FDA website and reported that exact side effect, it would have to be. They may do maybe a little bit of more of an investigation, but that's the way it works. So, and especially if they can actually get a couple of guys to speak Spanish in their sleep, forget it. That would definitely be put on the label. But yeah, look, man. All I can say is you're 34 years old. Your frontal forelock is thinning now. You've lost your hairline. You are in this for the long haul if you decide to have surgery. And I think that Bob he probably sees, based on his experience, your pattern of loss, and that you may have enough donor and future donor to kind of give you a look that you want for a decade or maybe more. But,
Well, that's what we spoke about last time. The main thing for me is it's like, okay, I view it as spending $10,000 to buy me 10 years. That's the reality that I would.
How many grafts did he recommend?
1,100 to rebuild it with some good density, I suppose. Yeah. I'm sure, give or take.
And you're Norwood 5. He classified you as a Norwood 5 with a thinning forelock.
That's no. Well, yeah, yes, correct. Right.
Yeah, that's your first surgery, dude. That's what he's
Yeah.
that is what he's saying.
The thing is, like, it's interesting. That's one thing we really didn't get too much into as far as, is there definitely without doubt going to be a second surgery needed and all that. So I got an email from his office afterwards explaining everything in detail. One thing I didn't really understand, and maybe you guys can help me with, is that it's something along the lines of, I don't remember the exact words. I should have it in front of me, but I don't. But it explains how they try and the procedure would be done in such a way that it would take into account future loss. So if that happens, it would give off the most natural look, if that makes sense.
Well, that's what they do. They want to create a standalone procedure where if you had no more money and you couldn't have another procedure done, or if you decided not to go through it again, that procedure would not stand out like a sore thumb. That is something that he's able to do. How is that possible? Because the hairs are going to be placed in a way that if you continue to thin, will just look like you have a natural thinning hairline, period. But you're going to be balding. You're going to look like a balding guy with a thinning hairline.
Gotcha.
But it's going to look natural. It's not going to look like you had something half done.
Right.
And that's what you need to understand about this is that after 1,100 grafts on a Norwood 5, that's exactly what you would look like if you just had that one procedure, and you're talking about a one and done, which doesn't exist, by the way. Just that one procedure, you would look like you are bald with a thinning hairline.
Right.
That's it. So if that's the look you're going for, then you'll achieve your one and done.
So
to be clear, the work that they do is very natural looking, no question about it. I mean, he's one of the original adopters of microscopic dissection for the grafts, single hair grafts. Very, very experienced at what he does. But that number of grafts there's no density to be had with that number of grafts on a Norwood 5. The math just doesn't.
No, I know that.
And what he explained in that email is, again, that even if you no longer, you cannot have the second procedure and third, which you will need, that one procedure will stand alone on its own and not look like you had a hair transplant. That's all he's saying.
And when you say need, obviously it's an asterisk next to that.
There's no asterisk. The only asterisk is if you need it mentally, if you don't need it mentally. But as far as getting what you want based on our conversations, you will need a minimum of 2 procedures, probably 3.
Yeah, I know. So basically your final, this opinion on this all. Do you suggest maybe what he implied? Or
if this is deal or no deal,
wait a couple of years?
If this is deal or no deal, it would be no deal.
No deal.
So you think at the very least wait a few years until the forelock starts balding and then go in there to recreate a little more, get a little more density.
Hold on. So you're saying that the forelock hasn't even started thinning yet? There's a strong density with it?
No, it's absolutely started thinning to a small degree. The forelock's actually one of the better areas of the head. So what my point is, wait until that starts thinning. Therefore, when I go into the surgery, it's a more, what's the word I'm looking for, a powerful one and done.
Well, it would have more of an impact on your visually. It'd have more of an impact on your overall look, and he'd probably end up doing a 2,500 graft procedure on you. So you're not going to have to be as concerned about getting to the chair the second time.
Correct.
Even though you probably will want to, based on everything that I've known from patients over the years.
And keep in mind all this is sight unseen, but forelocks that still have good density, those are actually tough to work with because you got to match the density on either side of that forelock when you're creating the hairline. So it needs to, because if you don't, then the work itself doesn't really look like it's done much because that forelock is still standing out aside from everything else.
And the work itself stands out to look like to being
much thinner
thin.
than it really is. Yeah.
You mean I understand. I think I know what you mean. You mean like the temples the forelock would stand out thicker.
Yeah. The forelock would appear to be thicker than the work that was performed around the forelock.
Yes.
I understand.
Because it would be thicker.
Wouldn't the hairline be made dense enough to at least match that though?
Not with 1,100 grafts.
No.
He's viewing you as a progressively balding young man, and he is working accordingly, where he doesn't want to utilize all of your grafts in that hairline to give you this super dense hairline because he knows you're going to be balding behind it.
And you just have to be honest. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, and that could look unnatural. Right. So he wants to give you a natural result for your progression, so that when you do progress, that procedure will be a standalone procedure if you choose not to have any more procedures performed. You're in a position, dude, where, in my view, you are not a candidate for a hair transplant unless you figure out, you get yourself on Propecia. And I would still wait for a year after that to see how you do on the drug if you decide to go that route, or wait till you lose more hair and then go for it.
Gotcha. I understand. Well, I appreciate it all, guys. I appreciate all the talk. Thanks for taking the call. I really appreciate it very much.
Well, you got it, man. Listen, good luck. I'm sorry. I wish I could say, hey, man, that's the right thing to do. Go get yourself a fucking hair transplant. But I'm sure if Bob Bernstein was listening, he would appreciate our, being candid. That's why he's part of what we do.
Right. Well, thank you again.
All right, man. Listen, good luck.
All right.
Okay.
Good luck,
Have
buddy.
a great night. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Before we go, I want to address what Soren in the chat room is saying. He misunderstood me and you when we're talking about graft numbers and whether it's worthwhile getting a procedure for 500 grafts or 1,000 grafts. Apparently, Soren's already had a procedure, and what we were talking about, Soren, were virgin cases, never having had surgery. Okay, 500 grafts is usually means that there's not a big enough of a problem to really warrant having surgery, because 500 grafts doesn't do much to begin with unless you're filling in a donor scar or just tweaking things really. Those are cases that concealer or medication or PRP or something like that can usually address if it's in a specific area. What you've been through, and forgive me, I didn't see all of your details, but you had a surgery with a clinic and you're unhappy with the result. So if you've been told that it will take 1,000 grafts by clinic X or clinic Y to get you where you want to be, then that's absolutely fine to do if surgery is actually necessary. Like if it's pluggy hairline, or it's too thin because of bad growth, whatever, absolutely. 200 grafts is more than appropriate, as is 2,000 grafts. It just depends on the case. It depends on what's involved with repair. And of course, it depends on the clinic and their experience. But I don't want you to misunderstand. It seems like you misunderstood what we were saying. It is definitely case specific, but for repair cases, it can be 100 grafts. It doesn't matter. It can be appropriate to correct a situation that shouldn't exist to begin with. So I want to make that clear.
I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
All right, guys, listen, we are going to go. Thank you so much for taking the time to call in for our Friday live broadcast. Guys, you are providing people and providing us with a lot of great content and providing people with a lot of help. All these guys that are listening to this broadcast have the same questions. And the fact that you take the time to call in to get your questions answered, it's not just, I know that you're doing it because you guys want help, but you have to realize that you are contributing to a tremendous library of information for people to be able to go through and to learn from. And these aren't just words on a fucking message forum. These aren't just anonymous people posting some bullshit. These are real. You guys are talking about your lives and sharing your stories and your experience and your angst and your triumphs. I always felt that that's why this program was so important. And that's why we continue to do it live as opposed to just, which would be much easier, putting together a podcast, interviewing some people, and putting it out there for public consumption. We want your experiences to be shared. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time to call. And let's hope that at some point I have to expand the line bank and add 2 or 3 more lines, or actually I would have to add 2 or 4 more lines, and it works in 2s. But I could add up to 12 lines on this bank, on this phone bank. So, let's hope we can make that happen. The website's thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. Also, hairtransplantmentor.com for Joe Tillman's personal website. If you want to watch the program live, we do air it live on Joe Tillman's YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/hairtransplantmentor, also on thebaldtruth.com. It's also aired live through the Guys from Queens network. That's guysfromqueens.com. Also want to thank everyone who's listening to the broadcast in their cars or on whatever devices they're listening to, on iTunes Radio, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio. I think we might still be on Twitch. Where else are we? We're going to start putting the podcast up on Spotify. So you guys will be able to listen through your Spotify accounts as well. Also, Roku. A couple of years ago, we were voted one of the craziest, top 15 crazy Roku channels. I'll take that. That means people are listening and watching. And Joe, there's a couple of websites that have been kind enough and generous enough to embed our broadcast so that their users could actually learn from it as well. So why don't you give them a shout out?
I will do that. Starting off, start with our European friends. We got international-hairlossforum.com. It is a French hair loss and hair restoration forum. They do have clinic members that share their results. They do have a lot of patients that talk about their experiences and share their results, which is ultimately what you want. That is international-hairlossforums.com. Great place to check out. Another European forum is bellicapelli.forumfree.it. It is the Italian hair loss and hair restoration forum, again, with lots of clinics that are participating and sharing their results, and lots of patients that are sharing their results and experiences as well. Great people that run these forums. Belli Capelli, I've known that guy for over 15 years now. Repair patient, so he understands what all of us are going through. That is bellicapelli.forumfree.it. And finally, we've got hairlossexperiences.com, another longtime friend of mine, repair patient just like myself, so he certainly gets it and does a lot of work behind the scenes to help people that have been wronged by this industry. Great forum overall, great clinics that are participating, sharing their results, and of course, patients sharing their experiences. That's hairlossexperiences.com. Check them out.
And if you guys want to check out our message forum, it's baldtruthtalk.com. Remember, guys, look, it's a message forum. Is it the most trafficked message forum in the industry that has no back end or no PMing system? Yeah.
Yes.
It is. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are on it and you're reading information and it's a heavily moderated forum for a reason. There's no private messaging system for a reason, because really that makes message forums, in my view, a very dangerous place, especially for vulnerable patients. A lot of nonsense goes on behind the scenes, including sales, including extortion, including just really nasty stuff that could sadly guide people in an unsafe direction. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. So if it's on our message forum, it's got to be out there for public consumption. If there's anybody that wants to write something that thinks is of any value, if you can't write it publicly, then you're not writing it on a message forum, at least ours. That's the way that it is. That's baldtruthtalk.com. Check it out if you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers or physicians who are part of the IHRS, or people like Joe, and Spencer Stevenson, other guys who are out there on the forum. That's a great place to go. And the American Hair Loss Association is AmericanHairLoss.org for anything and everything hair loss. Until next time, be strong. Oh, by the way, why don't you guys follow me on Instagram? We're putting a lot of interesting stuff on there. We want to really try to build a legitimate Instagram following. That means real people who are really interested in what we're doing without purchasing followers and all that shit. People are willing to comment and to regram and all that shit, because what we're putting out there is the truth. And I know, I'm not some, sexy broad wearing a thong, but this information is important. So follow me at Spencer Kobren. That's SpencerKobren on Instagram. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
Bud Light presents Real American Heroes.